Yo, hello, one and all, and welcome to The Alternates, a basketball show for the others, where we like to showcase independent music and discuss all things basketball. We've got a really fun show lined up for you today. We're going to be hitting the headliners, poking our heads into the Underground Network. We'll be playing Start Today with some new old faces in the mix. And then, of course, it's Tuesday, which can only mean one thing. We're picking our duo jams for the week.
So I'll be getting my revenge. We'll be talking about that and a lot more after this song, which is the band Strangers from Los Angeles. The song is Where Do We Go from the 7-inch of the exact same title, which came out on Verdugo Discos Records.
Awesome. What is up, y'all? Welcome to the show. It is February 8th, 2022. A nice sunny winter afternoon here in Los Angeles. We, of course, are the Alternates. I am your host, Brian Cullen, and with me, as always, is everyone's favorite, the people's pickleball paladin, Clayton Stevens.
Hello.
Before we jump into our first segment, just want to take a quick second, remind you to hit subscribe to the channel on YouTube. If you haven't done so yet, we hit 100.
Yes.
We hit our goal of 100 subs. So thank you all who helped us hit that goal. Our next goal is 200.
Yep.
And that can only mean one thing. If you've already subscribed, you got to tell a friend. Get a friend to subscribe, and then they get a friend. They get two friends, and then those two friends get two friends, and we just create this amazing YouTube subscription.
It's like a scheme that goes, it goes upwards, kind of like a, what would you call that? It goes from out up to a point. Like we call it like a pyramid?
A triangle?
Like a triangle scheme.
But it's not a scheme. It's a triangle. Help each other out.
Ah, yes.
A pyramid help.
That's it.
If you will. And then just like and share the video. That really helps us hit all of these benchmarks that we're setting for ourselves. If you're not catching us on YouTube and you're listening to the show on your preferred podcast platform, I'm getting better at that.
You are.
Hit subscribe there so you can stay up to date with all the latest and greatest from the Alternates. And you can leave us a rating and review, which really helps get the show a little more visibility, helps bring in some new people, helps us truly build this thing up. If you want to contact us, you can do so by emailing us thealternateshoop@gmail.com. You can reach out to us on our social media pages, Twitter and Instagram, at Brian S. Cullen for myself, at Clayton_Stevens for my handsome friend over here. And I got a new announcement.
What is it?
We're on TikTok.
Oh, boy.
So if you're on TikTok, you can follow the show on TikTok at The Alternates NBA for just some weird clips that I've been putting up. I've been having fun. TikTok's a fun place. I've been enjoying it.
Yeah.
If you want to see Clayton dancing to songs on TikTok, follow at The Alternates NBA. And then, of course, you can reach out to us and get a hold of us in the comments section on the video below, like our friend GP did here.
Gary Payton.
Gary Payton, the glove himself, left a comment for us. Gary Payton said, first time commenting here, but I've been catching the episodes on Pocket Casts app. I've never heard of Pocket Casts, but shout out to Gary for using it.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Shout out to Pocket Casts for having
the
show. Yeah,
we're on there. Yeah,
I had no idea.
Check us out.
Love the approachable style towards basketball. Any advice on someone trying to get into watching basketball more? They go on to say basically it's overwhelming the amount of just stats and info and just passion and intensity that can exist in online communities with basketball fans. It can be overwhelming if you're not kind of ingratiated in that world. Could be a fun topic to get into, Gary Payton says, and then follows it up with, right now, I'm rooting for the Clippers and really focusing on that roster, but it's fun to notice great players or players to look out for from other teams. Well, Mr. The Glove, I got to say that is a fun topic to get into. My advice, first of all, love that you're watching the Clippers. That's
good choice.
Yeah, love that. And then second, there's a few things that I would recommend to get into the basketball world a little more. I enjoy learning more about the players themselves, because you're right, we get really caught up in stats and, all the kind of like nerdy, and I'm totally a basketball nerd. I can definitely be part of that, comic book guy community that can be a bit much. I will own that. But learning more about the players that you like. So as you're watching maybe the Clippers and you see a player on another team, you're like, I've never heard of that person. Just let yourself go down the rabbit hole, right? Because we often forget that these are people that are playing, and there's some really amazing ones out there, some really good ones. I think the biggest example for me is Jaylen Brown. I became a massive Jaylen Brown fan just watching him play and then learning more about him. He's really, really involved in the community. He is a huge activist. He wrote an amazing article in the Boston Globe about facial recognition technology and the racial biases, and just really cool stuff. And it's great to see that, I think it's easy to get a huge payday and then just kind of dip out of society and be like, I'm gonna live in this bubble, but refuses to do that. He's very active. That's, I think, one of my favorite things that helps me just get way more involved in watching the league. What about you?
So yeah, that's a really good one. Learning about these players, you're going to fall in love with tons of them, just how it goes. The Olympics are on right now. I find myself falling in love with athletes in about 30 seconds in the Olympics. But I think a really good way to get into it is, if you can afford it, is League Pass, right? And the great thing about League Pass is you get to choose the away feed or you get to choose the home feed. And what I love to do is go through games, choose the home feed. What's great about the home feed is not only are you learning about the team and maybe the ideas behind the team, maybe learning more specifically about the team, but you also get those personal things. Like you were saying, you actually get to learn about these players. There's more reports on them, stuff like that. So that's a really great place to start. If you can't afford League Pass, go on YouTube. The NBA puts out these great 10-minute essentially clips of the games that happened the night before. It really gives you a good sense of what happened in that game, and just watching and learning that you'll pick up a lot more than you think really quickly. Don't pressure yourself into learning every player super fast, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And if you can't afford League Pass, there's other ways to watch the games. Reddit. And, I would also say join a random fantasy league. If you don't have other friends that are watching the games or another, basketball nut in your life, you can go on any of these fantasy sites and join a random league. That's something that got me super into the league, was playing fantasy, because then you're like, oh, I'm going to watch this Orlando Magic, Detroit Pistons Tuesday night game or something that you normally, yeah. And because you're like, oh, I've got a guy on that team that I want to watch. And that will really kind of ingratiate you with all the different players. And it just adds another level of excitement. So I would definitely recommend just play fantasy. Don't be worried about winning or losing. Just have fun with it. And I mean, that was a huge step for me, was doing that.
Yeah, I think that's a really fun way to get into it. And so let's get into our first segment here.
Let's do it.
And let's go with the headliners.
It is
what's
time
trending
for the headliners. Fun headliners here. It's trade season, baby.
Oh, yeah.
The trade deadline is this Thursday, and we've already got movement, which... like big movement, fun movement, which usually doesn't happen until the last day. But let's start here in LA with the Los Angeles Clippers. They acquired Norman Powell and Robert Covington from Portland, and they gave up Eric Bledsoe, Justice Winslow, Keon Johnson, and a future Detroit second-round pick.
Wow.
I got to say, I love this move for the Clippers. This is a huge, wow. I was shocked that they made this move. A couple things. Powell fixes these 3, 4, 5-minute scoring droughts that the Clippers have had in basically every single game this season. He's a dude that can shoot the ball. He can get to the rim. He adds a lot to that scoring on the team. And without PG and Kawhi, he immediately becomes the best player on the Clippers.
Absolutely.
And then you think about adding him with those two superstars, and that's a terrifying 3-headed snake that you got to get through. And what makes it so good is he's got 4 years left after this season. They have Norman Powell locked up on a contract that probably is not paying him enough for the skill set that he has. So home run all the way for that. Robert Covington, it's another nice piece. He's a 3-and-D guy. He's quietly shooting 50% from the corner, which, yes,
their system is perfect.
Exactly what they want. It's another rangy wing, which is what the Clippers absolutely love. And he's got a ton of experience playing the 5 and small ball lineups, which the Clippers love to do. And he gives that added insurance in case they decide to move for Marcus Morris or Nicholas Batum leaves in the offseason. It just gives them another guy that can fill that space. So I think it's huge. I love it for the Clippers. Portland, I'm not totally sure on. What's your take on the Portland side?
So yeah, from Portland's side here, I think obviously what they're doing is cutting money here, right?
Yeah.
Immediately it gets them out of the tax. Makes their whole situation a lot more palatable moving forward. Now, obviously, I think Blazers fans' first reaction is that's all we got.
Yeah.
But one thing I think that's not being talked about enough in this trade is Keon Johnson.
Okay.
He was drafted in the first round. He has a very rare skill set, a very rare physical profile that you just don't see often. Obviously, the 48-inch vertical is what everybody knows him for.
Yeah, broke the combine record, yeah.
So they clearly value him as maybe a first-round asset.
Sure.
Like they would have taken him a year ago. So they like him. Eric Bledsoe fills a need for right now. Justice Winslow, again, fills a need for right now. But more than anything, this is getting them in a situation where they can be a lot more flexible, let alone if they take the next step and get rid of CJ. This really makes their roster very flexible moving forward. It allows them to sign Anthony Simons long-term, which obviously this deal says they really believe in Anthony Simons. They want him to be their guard moving forward, paired next to Dame. So this is an underwhelming return for them, but we'll see in a week or two. Maybe after the CJ news and we see what comes back and who they could be targeting moving forward, maybe we'll feel a little differently about it.
Okay.
But yes, this is a home run for the Clippers. There's no doubt about it.
Totally fair. Let's move on to another trade that happened. The Cleveland Cavaliers trade Ricky Rubio to the Indiana Pacers for Caris LeVert. How do you feel about this one?
This is huge. This is huge news because this is exactly what you were calling for the Cavs to do. And I was a little weary of when you brought this up, like they should make a trade. But I think this trade kind of serves two masters for Cleveland here.
Okay.
It makes them better right away.
Yep.
Because Caris is a good ball handler and he scores and he already has a relationship with Jared Allen.
Mm-hmm.
And so immediately right away, he's going to fill a need for them. And next season and moving forward, I think he fits into their roster really well. And Indiana, they're getting off an expensive deal here. They are getting a draft pick in return, which, you know, I know it's protected and it's not the sexiest thing, but we know Indiana drafts really, really well. And especially when you give them multiple shots at it, I think they're going to do really well with whatever they get back for him.
Yeah, and that lottery protection is like what the Cavs are not going to be in the lottery.
They're not going to
good.
be. Yeah, exactly. That pick is going to come to Indiana. And look, they got Chris Duarte pretty late in the draft this year. They've, gotten Paul George, Miles Turner, like all these guys they've gotten super late or went after Sabonis when he was a distressed asset, right? Like, for sure. They do that really well. So, but for the Cavs, this is amazing news for the Cavs. That's really the headline here.
100%. I love it. I think it's, I love that in, Caris LeVert going to Cleveland. We've got Norman Powell going to LA. Guys returning home. Norman Powell's from Southern California. Caris LeVert's from Ohio. I always love when that happens. And
they fit, right? Like it's not just that they're going home, but they're going to a team
it makes
that
sense.
Works for them, fits their skill set.
Totally. I also love that we might be looking at this in 6 months and saying, wow, Cleveland, who was just a catalyst in the James Harden trade out of Houston, 100% came out on top of that, which is absolutely insane to me.
Yeah.
absolutely, because they were just a team that was thrown in to make it happen, and they are getting all of the rewards from that. So I absolutely love it.
Yeah, Houston really messed up by just letting him walk out the door. That was insane.
Yeah, that will be a 30 for 30, that entire trade and how it all shook out.
I agree.
All right, next we've got the Chicago Bulls. Forward Patrick Williams could return this season, according to head coach Billy Donovan, who in I think it was post-game said that he really liked how he's advancing, how he's progressing, and it looks like he might actually play again this season. Is this huge?
This is big news for the Bulls because he is their biggest trade piece moving forward. I think they're probably going to keep him around the season, and if he can play the season, they're going to get a good look at whether they want to keep him long term or not, or he's the chip that they eventually trade in for something else. So I think this will help them, obviously, with all the injuries they've had, especially defensively. They can use a guy like him.
Yeah,
right?
I trade piece maybe. I also think that it's worth holding on to him, especially if he comes back, because he's a good defensive player. I mean, his comps were Kawhi Leonard coming into the league. It was called the Baby Claw or something like that. And with having one of their best defensive players in
Caruso
Lonzo,
out.
Yeah. He fills a void there. So I think that this could be really big for the Bulls. And it's just good to hear. I love when guys come back ahead of schedule because nobody likes injuries.
Exactly. And, the Bulls really liked him. Obviously, they went up to get him at number 4, where it seemed like it was a little bit of a stretch to get him there. So they really believe in him. So this is exciting news for the Bulls, I think.
Definitely. All right, last headline here. Amidst an 8-game losing streak, the Brooklyn Nets head coach Steve Nash says that James Harden will not be traded.
I'm almost speechless. Really. This is really out of control. 8-game losing streak, regardless of Durant not being there, regardless of Harden missing a few games. They have way too much talent on this roster to lose 8 games in a row to anybody.
Yeah.
Honestly, they shouldn't lose 8 games in a row to anybody. And what I'm really thinking is what isn't being talked about in this trade enough. So let's move to the Underground Network here.
Okay.
Because, yes, this is the biggest story in the NBA right now.
Mm-hmm.
James Harden, maybe is he going to go to Philly? Is he going to walk away from the Brooklyn Nets? That's the leverage he has. I don't really think James Harden has that much leverage.
Okay, and that's what's making it Underground Network.
That's what's making it Underground, because I don't think people are really talking about the leverage that he doesn't really have.
Okay.
So the number one threat that people are saying is he could opt out of his contract next season and just go to any team he wants. Well, there's only a few teams that have cap space.
Okay.
The Pistons, the Magic, the Spurs. We could talk about Chicago and the Pelicans maybe could make a little space. But really, the Pistons, Magic, and Spurs are the only ones that really have any space. His recent injury struggles. Okay, that's an issue. He was always an Iron Man in Houston.
Yeah.
Always played 70-plus games. Since he's been to Brooklyn, on and off the injury report constantly. Can't stay healthy. On top of that, his numbers are declining. And on top of that, his attitude and his perceived leadership, I don't think that could be lower.
Yeah.
It's at an all-time low. And what we all think James Harden wants, which this summer there was already reports about this, he wants that next max extension.
Mm-hmm.
If he wants to get that extension, owners are going to be involved. They want to know that this is a person that they want to give over $200 million to.
Wow.
And if he really wants the maximum amount of money that he can get, he needs to stay on this contract to get the raises so that he can get a 5-year contract moving forward. The difference in if he were to leave the Nets and as a free agent and who signed with the team, there's a difference in $70 million.
Wow.
So there's a lot at stake for him here.
Yeah, so I'm going to push back on a couple things here.
Go ahead.
Yes, there's only a couple teams with cap space, and the teams you listed don't want him because they're not necessarily looking to take a contender step, which is what a James Harden signing would be. But I think teams will make space. They will make space for a guy of James Harden's caliber. Now, his numbers have declined a little bit, but he's also sharing the floor with Kevin Durant, who I know is out now, but they've shared a lot of minutes together. So I think that is a factor there in those numbers taking a dip. And then yeah, the injuries, like, look, dude, that could be a morale issue. Like, I've been at jobs that I hated, and I called out a lot more at those jobs. And so that could be a factor here as well. I also think with Durant out, it could speak to maybe the medical staff in Brooklyn, and maybe that's the issue. Maybe they're mishandling stuff. James Harden to me is still one of the best players in the league. And you have a couple years in a place that you're not happy, that could affect a lot of things. But I do think that there are still teams that will make it happen. Losing money is a big deal for a guy like that, especially the money you're talking about. But he's also a superstar. So he's making up money in other places with shoe deals and all these other things. So you supplement some of that income. But yeah, I mean, you're right. Like, I didn't think about the leverage that the Nets had here because I'm so in the mindset of it's the player empowerment league. Player says they want something, it happens. This is one of those rare situations where it might not play out that way.
Yeah, because, the teams that you think he'd want to go to, LA or Milwaukee or
any of the contenders,
any of the contenders, like, they cannot get him. They have no way to get him.
You would gut a team to do it.
You would gut a team to do it. His number, let's just forget, again, if he walks out the door and he wants to start brand new with a team, his number starts at $47 million. These teams with cap space I was talking about, they have around 30.
Wow.
They're not even close. Like, there is no team that can just outright sign James Harden in the NBA.
Yeah.
There's none. So if he wants to get to a new team, he wants whatever he wants this deal, he's got to play ball with the Brooklyn Nets. And nobody's really talking about that. Like, if he wants to go to whatever team, he's going to need their help in making a trade happen, making all kinds of stuff happen so that he can get to this place. The only team that wants him is Philadelphia. Yeah. The only team that we're sure wants to give him this $270 million extension. Okay? Like, this extension it's tough to swallow just like as a person looking at it. If he gets this full extension, he's looking at $61.5 million as a 37-year-old in 26-27.
We've seen it happen, though. I mean, people thought that the Chris Paul extension, his Supermax, was crazy, and he went to the finals last year, so there's value in these guys.
I know, but I believe James Harden will have been the first person to have 2 Supermax extensions. Yeah. Chris Paul had one. He finished it out. He signed a new deal with Phoenix, not for $50 million a year. He's making $30 million a year.
Right. Well,
if James Harden were to opt out and say, hey, I'd take $25 million, I think there's a lot of teams that would want him. But we know that that's not what he wants. He said during the summer as much that he wants to be extended. He wants to get what his value is. And if he wants it, it's going to be the Brooklyn Nets or it's going to be the Philadelphia 76ers, period. There is not another team that can give it to him.
So let me flip the tables just a little bit here. Could his leverage now be, hey, you could cost me this much money, and other players are going to see that, and it's going to look bad for you moving forward as a franchise, and that's going to be a stink that's going to take you some time to get rid of?
I don't think he has much leverage there. Anyone would have done what the Brooklyn Nets did. They did exactly what he asked them to do. They gave up the farm for him. They did anything he asked to do, and he's not happy. And obviously that's a result of a lot of things. We don't really know exactly why he isn't unhappy.
Yeah.
But I don't think people would look around and say, like, the Brooklyn Nets did him dirty.
Okay, interesting.
I think if anything, he's done them dirty because it was perceived and written many times, including a lot of the articles I had to look up to find stuff about cap space, like that he had publicly said, I want to be with the Brooklyn Nets. I want to be here for the rest of my career. In fact, he said, I want to be here for the rest of my career.
Yeah.
Right. He put those words out there into the public. So I think if anything, he's the one taking the big hit here. I think the perception of him would be as low as it's ever been if he actually wants to come out of Brooklyn.
Wow. Quite a battlefield. All right. Well, that should make our next segment pretty interesting, which is Start Today. So in this segment, we're going to go through the bracket as currently stands, completely ignoring the play-in because we're old school like that.
Yep.
But this is 1 through 8 in both conferences, and we're going to go through each round rapid fire, and we're going to pick a winner.
Yep. And keep in mind, these are start today. So these are the rosters as they are today.
Exactly.
Not counting, people coming back off the injured list, stuff like that.
Exactly. Let's start in the East.
Okay. All right. First, we got the number 1 seeded Miami Heat versus the Boston Celtics, who have recently been hot.
So I'm going to kick this off with some controversy.
No.
I got Boston winning this series.
Oh my God, come on.
They have really started to turn it on and turn it around. And their two wings obviously are ahead of the pack. There's a guy who's really turned it on lately, and his name is Time Lord. He has been so good for them. They're in the middle of a 5-game winning streak, and he's arguably been their second best player in this winning streak. They have an advantage over Miami in the season. They've played really well against them. I think this is just a bad matchup for Miami. I'm picking the Boston Celtics to win this series. 1-8 upset.
I don't want to linger on this too long because we got to get through this, but I think this is an insane pick. I mean, the Heat have Kyle Lowry healthy. They've got Jimmy Butler. They've got Bam. They've got Tyler Hero. They basically have their whole team. PJ Tucker. They basically have their whole playoff-ready team ready to go. I think they're an absolute matchup nightmare for the Boston Celtics.
They haven't beat the Celtics once this year.
The Celtics, I do not believe, could outscore the Miami Heat in a 7-game series. I think there's going to be a lot of people in the comments sounding off about how insane this is. Maybe. I think Miami could be the favorites in the Eastern Conference right now. So let's move past them.
All right, just saying Jason Tatum was just announced player of the week, but yeah, let's move on.
Okay, let's go down to the number 2 seeded Chicago Bulls playing the always controversial Brooklyn Nets.
Bulls. This is easy. The Bulls, I think, there's too much going on in Brooklyn. There's too much turmoil in the locker room that's bleeding out onto the floor. Their 8-game losing streak. I've got Chicago winning this.
Yeah, I think that's fair. The Ayo Dosunmu show is getting better and better.
So much fun to watch.
Getting better and better. Okay, and then we have the Milwaukee Bucks versus the, again, very hot Toronto Raptors right now.
Welcome back to the playoffs, Toronto.
Welcome.
They have been a fun story. The Bucks, I've got the Bucks winning. As good as Toronto has been lately, that 5-game winning streak gets them the 8th seed. I talked about how the Bucks were kind of slipping on an episode recently, and they're back in the 3 seed in the East. They're looking like the Bucks again.
Yeah, I think that's fair. But shout out to the Raptors. Really like the way they're playing right now. Okay, and then the final one here, we've got the Cavs versus the Sixers.
Cavs, they just got an upgrade. I love what they're doing. They might be the team most fit to slow down Joel Embiid with the amount of size that they have. I'm picking the Cavs to win this series.
I love it. They're just playing too well right now. And you're right. They have enough bigs to get through them, I think.
Yeah. All right, we're heading back out west. The 1-8 matchup. We've got a conference finals showdown here from last season. You got the Phoenix Suns versus the new face Los Angeles Clippers.
I'm going to go with the Phoenix Suns here. Not too much drama. But I love this. I think this would be a really fun 1-8 matchup as constructed right now. The Clippers have obviously added some more shooting to their team. They put a little bit of a scare into the Suns without Kawhi Leonard last year. But Phoenix Suns are the Phoenix Suns. I think they'd pretty handily take that series.
Totally fair. All right, we got another 2-7 here. This is a fun one. I like this one. Curious to see who you pick. The Golden State Warriors versus the Minnesota Timberwolves.
Love this one. This is easily my favorite one on the board. I'd be rooting hard for the Timberwolves, but my money would go to the Golden State Warriors.
Yeah. Klay Thompson has quietly been getting himself back to Klay Thompson form.
Yes, and I actually like the way Jordan Poole's been playing. I know he's been a little up and down at times, but I really like the way he's been playing recently.
Okay, all right. 3-6. Memphis Grizzlies versus the Denver Nuggets.
Memphis.
Easy?
I think Denver could obviously steal a game or two. Jokic would be the best player in that series individually, but the Grizzlies are just, the vibes are just like coming through their skin.
Yeah.
In a first round series here, I think they could pretty easily take this.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I like them.
All right. I agree with that. 4-5. This is an interesting one to me. Mm-hmm. Utah Jazz versus a pretty hot Luka Doncic and the Dallas Mavericks.
Loving the way the Mavericks are playing right now. I'm choosing the Mavericks.
Yeah.
Utah, this is a now situation. After the deadline, they could look very different after this. But the Mavs, I think we know who they are. Luka is playing as well as he's ever played,
oh my God.
I think, right now.
Yeah.
And so, I got the Mavericks winning this series.
Yeah. Okay, that's fair. Dude, Luka right now, he just made the top 10 all-time triple-doubles, and he did it in, under 300 games?
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah.
They're super hot. And the Jazz hate small ball lineups. Kleba opens up the capability to take advantage of that for Dallas. So
yeah, and let alone guys who can beat you off the dribble and stuff like that, which that's Utah's worst nightmare.
yeah. Okay. All right. Let's go back out east.
Okay, let's do it. So we got your Boston Celtics somehow taking on the Cavs. A very odd series here.
This is a brutal matchup. Again, might call me crazy. I'm picking Boston to win this one. The Cavs have not been able to figure out Boston this season.
Insane.
I love what the Cavs are doing, and maybe I just got to see some more with LeVert on the team, but they've not been able to slow down the duo wings in Boston so far this year. I've got Boston winning. I think it's a 7-game series. I think it's very close. I just think there's a little too much vet presence and experience in Boston that will overcome what Cleveland has currently.
Okay, I think you're underrating Cleveland's vets, but let's move on.
Okay. You're so upset.
I just can't believe this. It's 2 series in a row. I would not even close to pick the Celtics. Okay. Bulls, Bucks.
Bucks.
Yeah.
I love the Bulls. I love their story this year. I love what they're doing. I'm a huge DeRozan fan. The Bucks are just so good right now. They really, really have turned it around from where they were a couple weeks ago. I just have all the faith in the world in them right now.
Yeah, me too.
All right, we're going back west. Phoenix Suns versus the hot Dallas Mavericks.
Yeah, I got Phoenix here. As I've mentioned in multiple start to days, their ability to play different ways, different lineups, I think they would figure them out. But telling you, the Dallas Mavericks would put a scare into them. I have no doubt about it.
Yeah.
But this is a 7-game series where the Suns' experience and versatility wins out for them.
Totally.
Similar to the Clippers matchups that the Mavs have had the last couple of years.
100%. And I mean, I think getting out of the first round is a huge step for the Mavs because they've been able to do that in the Luka Doncic era.
Yep.
So yeah, I think that's I agree with that. All right. This is another fun one. Grizzlies versus the Warriors. Warriors with home court.
Yep. But I've been looking at this matchup all season. And that I've been talking about it a lot. I got the Grizzlies.
Wow.
The Warriors are just not playing their best basketball right now. I certainly think they're capable of beating the Grizzlies. I would not at all be surprised for them to beat them. But if we're talking start today, the Grizzlies have what it takes to get over the top, I believe.
Totally. Okay, so I start today, 100%. If Draymond Green was playing, does that change your prediction here?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. That is playing a gigantic role.
Fair enough. All right, let's hit the East Conference Finals.
Bucks Celtics. It's like we're back 2-3 seasons ago.
Yeah,
huh?
This one's easy. Don't even think about it. Boston Celtics. I'm kidding. Their run, their
Cinderella run.
Yeah,
somehow.
It ends here. The Bucks, I think, just destroy them. I know that it's driving you crazy. I just think that part of the playoffs is hitting your stride at the right time, and that's where I see Boston currently, which is why I'm so high on them in start today.
Mm-hmm.
But the Bucks just destroy them. Somehow do it in 3.
Yeah, I mean, apparently you have a hot Dennis Schroeder because he must have been playing pretty well to get them here. But you're right. There's no situation in which the Celtics could beat them.
Yeah.
Who's guarding Giannis?
Yeah.
Forget about it.
All right. West Conference Finals. What I'm imagining is a very, very physical, very intense series with the Phoenix Suns and the Memphis Grizzlies.
The shit talking in this series would be
all-time high.
Unbelievable. Yeah. And remember, Jay Crowder was a very vital piece to Memphis not too long ago, seemed to be really bummed about leaving that situation.
Yep.
I believe he would play a big X factor in this series. But I'm going with the Phoenix Suns here. Again, like we were saying, I think this is where the Cinderella story kind of ends for Memphis here, is like the Suns' ability to change and adapt and do what they need to do. I think in the end, they pull it out over a team that just isn't ready to get to that next step yet.
Okay, that's fair. So yet again, it's the Phoenix Suns against the Milwaukee Bucks in the finals.
Yeah, 2 Titans.
We just can't get away from this matchup.
Yeah. Who
do you have winning this series?
I have the Milwaukee Bucks winning.
Same.
I think a lot of people would be choosing the Phoenix Suns here, and I wouldn't go crazy for anyone picking that. What I like about the Bucks though is that when this team is hitting 3-pointers,
Oh,
I actually think they're impossible to beat.
yeah.
Like, I think when they shoot...
They just shot 50% against the Clippers.
When they shoot above 40% from three, it seems like you cannot beat them. And so they just have to do that 4 out of 7 times, and they're going to beat anybody, basically, right now. So I think the Bucks have just enough to pull it out, and I really do think it's on the back of three-point shooting.
Yeah, and to that point, that hot three-point shooting takes Giannis to his absolute top.
He's scoring 40.
Yeah.
Like we've seen in the playoffs, Giannis is going to score 40 points.
But if everybody's hitting three, it opens up so much for him to dominate.
The lane is wide open.
And when he gets that going, he's impossible to stop.
Exactly. And he loves to kick it out to these shooters, and these shooters love it. We saw the other night, Pat Connaughton was just licking his lips every time there was a double team because he's an underrated player. All these guys, they're good shooters. Yes, they're not the most dynamic players in the world, but when they're wide freaking open from beyond the three, they can knock it down. They've done it at the highest level. I think they're going to do it again.
Okay. All right. I'm in agreement with you right now, but that's a close series. That's a tough one to call. So we're going to come back in a couple weeks and see where we're at in the standings, and we're going to crown another champion.
Yep.
We're going to keep doing this until we get to the finals and see if our most picked champion for the season ends up being who the actual champ is.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting.
I love it. Okay, well, there's only one place to go from here. Duo Jam.
Yes.
For the first time since we started playing Duo Jam, I am excited to get into it.
Okay.
So last week, we had the up-down series. Team that was getting hot, team that was cooling off. Brooklyn Nets versus the Denver Nuggets. I picked the Nuggets, you picked the Nets. You had Kyrie Irving and Patty Mills, which was kind of a gamble because Harden was day-to-day. He ended up playing the second game last week, right?
Yeah, I think he played half the games.
And then stepped back out. Kyrie put up 146.5 fantasy points for you last week. He did great.
Yeah.
Perfect for you. He was on the road the whole time, was able to play every single game. Patty Mills only put up 85.3 points.
Yeah, disappointing.
Combined for 231.8 points. The Denver Nuggets, I had the reigning MVP, Nikola Jokic. He put up 168.5 points last week.
Disgusting.
He was unbelievable, remains unbelievable. And then Will the Thrill Barton, I said it was going to come through for me, and he did. He put up 129.9 points, combined for 298.4. I get my first win of the season. I am so happy. I'm on a 1-game winning streak. Nobody can stop me.
All it took was you giving me the shit-ass Brooklyn Nets and you choosing the MVP for you to get one.
That's all it took. Okay, so my favorite part about this, because I was watching it closely throughout the week because I desperately needed a win here. You pick Patty Mills, and I jokingly said, just get it over with and say it's going to be Blake Griffin. He had a bigger fantasy week than Patty Mills.
Yeah.
He was their second best fantasy player last week.
I said it on air. My heart wanted to go with Blake Griffin. I don't know why I didn't listen. I always got to go with my heart. So I will be going with my heart moving forward. Okay. That's a promise.
All right. Well, let's see where your heart takes you this week as we pick two teams that are just winning everything. Surging. Both currently on 5-game winning streaks as we record this. It's the Boston Celtics versus the Toronto Raptors. I think it's pretty obvious who I'm taking this week.
You're taking the Celtics.
The Celtics. My 1-8 upset team. Jason Tatum. Easy. That's my first pick. He's the best player on the team. He's been so good. Just got player of the week.
Yeah.
Riding hard for Jason Tatum. God's will take me there if anybody gets that reference.
Yes.
Now, this next one was tough for me. Really tough. Because Robert Williams has been so good lately. In fact, in this 5-game winning streak, he's the second best player on that team.
Yeah, statistically, he has been, yes.
Yes. But I'm riding with my dude, Jaylen Brown. I got the 2 wings. They're going to fly me to a victory. Who do you got in Toronto?
So, quick shout out. I've been watching a ton of Raptors.
They're so fun.
They are so fun.
Yeah.
And it's hard to say that with a team that's playing in an empty arena right now, which
totally
is a vibe killer big time. But wow, I love the way this team is playing.
It's a vibe killer unless you're like Devin Booker shooting free throws. In which case, the vibes are sky high.
I hated that. Devin Booker, you're learning a little too much from Chris Paul. Just a little too much. Like, you're allowed to have fun. It's okay. And the Raptors are having a shit ton of fun right now.
Yes, they are.
Everyone's playing well. I love it. I got to go with Mr. Underdog himself, Mr. Bet on Yourself, Mr. One-Time All-Star, Freddie VanVleet.
Love it.
Just a monster at both ends of the floor. I love how hard he plays defense too, which doesn't play into this at all. But just shout out to, he's so undersized and he's a pest
He's
on
a
the
menace.
ball. He's so good defensively.
Yeah.
And then I'm going with the sensation, Scotty Barnes.
Wow, that's a risk.
Yes, it's a risk, but he, over this winning streak, has really found himself. He's found his scoring. He just like winning play after winning play. And again, this one's going with my heart. I just love the way Scotty Barnes is playing. I'm putting no ceiling on how good this guy can be.
Incredible.
We will find out in the future, but I am sky high on Scotty Barnes.
I love it. Yeah, I'm a big Scotty Barnes fan. I would have picked Spicy P, but I get it. He has been fantastic lately.
And Spicy P, Pascal, has been really good recently, and sort of finding himself again as well.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
just shout out to the whole Raptors team and Nick Nurse.
Oh, I mean, right now,
really bright future.
Turning it on right now with the East kind of in turmoil, they could be playing their way into a nice position heading into the playoffs. I love it. All right, so we're going to see how this goes. We both took a little bit of a gamble. I think we both went with our hearts this week as well.
We did, exactly.
So,
that was the real lesson from last week.
Real
Go with your heart.
Heart-filled week in Duo Jam. So we will check back next Tuesday and see who comes out on top in this matchup. I'm excited. Can't wait to watch these teams this week. That is going to be it for today's show. Thank you all so much for joining us. Another quick reminder here at the end, hit subscribe. Let's get to 200. 200. We can do it. Yep. I believe in us. I believe in you. We will be back Friday with an all new episode of The Alternates. We're going to be checking out the headliners. We got something a little fun planned there. Mm-hmm. My favorite segment, 3-pack, where I lost last week. First stump of the season.
Yep.
We'll see if we can keep that going. And then, of course, let's just throw it all away at the casino. And we'll be playing Bet Brains, and we'll be seeing what lines you set for me to throw my alternates dollars at for the weekend. I'm going to close this out with a song. We're going a little gothy. We're going to get a little witchy today with a great just kind of gothy post-punk, peace punk band, members of one of my all-time favorite bands, but this band is called Arcane. It's off of the Whispers LP that they released in 2017. The song is called Ashes. Let's get witchy.
I'm excited.
Thank you all so much. We'll see you in a couple days.